Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending from where you're actually joining us for this second day of our live event specifically for Microsoft Teams and education. We are going to start our day in a similar way that we did yesterday. We're going to start with a keynote where we're just going to discuss Microsoft Teams and everything that is involved in digital learning, specifically with Microsoft Education. If you joined us yesterday for the keynote, this is going to be a repeat. So again, you will see the same content, but no worries. You can absolutely join us again. Stay within our meeting, and we will take you for the next 3 hours in a number of sessions, specifically around Microsoft education and how Teams can help you with that. My name is Jethro Seghers. I'm a senior program manager in the Microsoft Teams for Education Engineering team. And if you want to communicate with me, I do have a Twitter handle is @eSeghers, and feel free to ask me any questions that you might have, whether it's on the Twitter feed, but also, of course, in this session. The agenda for today, so we're going to start for the next 30 minutes, really talking about modern learning with Microsoft Education and the new things that we've released in Microsoft Teams. Then we have a very interesting agenda going from surveys and quizzes with your students using Microsoft Forms, 3D immersive content delivery with SharePoint Spaces, and at 11:30 PST or 2 p.m. Eastern time, we will actually take a 15-minute break just to make sure that everybody can take a breather and that you guys also can take a little break from attending all these sessions. At 11:45 or 2:45 Eastern, we're going back to on-demand learning with video and Microsoft Stream, followed by assessments with Microsoft Teams assignments. We end our day for today with professional development and recognition of resources. And then finally, we have the end of our second day, and that also concludes the whole event. This day is really designed to be interactive, right? So we're really going to give you during a number of sessions a certain tasks, and we will give you a timer. In most cases, that's a 5-minute timer. But just to make sure that you can also be hands-on, we kind of ask you to have a Teams client open, whether that's your own application, whether that's in the browser. Feel free to choose whatever your preference is at. If you're using the browser, the URL is very easy. It's teams.microsoft.com. Or you can also use, of course, the application and just minimize the event that you currently are in. Of course, all the slides are already available. So if you want to see the slides, if you want to reuse the slides or use them in your organization, just open a browser and type in aka.ms /teams edu live dash slides. And at that point, and I know that Vinny is already putting that into the featured announcements as well, so you can just copy and paste that into your browser. So when we're really looking at what people need nowadays in education, right? It's all about digital skills and being able to use technology, the internet, additional technology skills to really bring that into the workforce. And to bring it into the workforce, we really have to make sure that our students, whether they're in K-12, whether in higher education, really get that skill set trained. A skill set just doesn't appear, right? It's not because we talk about something that information, these skills are just going to appear. So really what we want to do with Microsoft specifically is really making sure that all these skill sets are a part of your organization, that you can bring that in to your students as well. And especially right now with everything that is going on in the world with COVID-19, there's a lot of uncertainty that is going on. Whether you're thinking about doing a hybrid model, whether you're thinking about opening up your school, whether you're thinking about really going completely online, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. And so what we want to do is make sure that using Microsoft Teams, you have all the information that you need to have and really bring that into your organization as well. When we think about what has happened in pretty much the last 6 months is Our lives have changed. Our education has changed. Our economy has changed. The way that we're doing business and the way that we're educating is completely different. When we look at a few numbers of what we've seen from a Microsoft perspective is 183,000 institutions right now are using Microsoft Teams for education, which is a huge, huge increase in the last 6 months. 75 million within capital M, daily active users are using Microsoft Teams, and that's since April 2020. And of course, 4.1 billion meeting minutes in a single day. And why is that important for you? Because if you're indeed are going to start thinking about hybrid learning or remote learning, being able to have a good meeting experience, online class experience is something that is going to be essential. Doing it in an efficient, but also in a safe way, both for yourself and for your students, is going to be essential. So that's really something that we put a lot of effort in it. So when we look at Teams, and probably what you're looking at the most right now is in the support of your online lectures or in your online classrooms, whatever you want to call them, is really that teaching and learning model. And that teaching and learning model is going to support your classroom experience, is going to support everything that you want to do when it comes to teacher-student acceptance, right? When it comes to giving knowledge to your students, when it comes to training, when it comes to really driving that education. But what we want to do is within Microsoft Teams for Education is really taking it to that next level. Teaching and learning is very, very much a hot topic today, but there's so much more that you can do today with Microsoft Teams for Education. And the sessions that you're going to see today are also kind of going to support that idea. So for example, faculty and staff coordination. If you need to collect some information from people within your organization, whether they're admins, whether they are staff, Teams can be absolutely be used for that. Collaborating on documents together, super interesting. Yesterday, we talked about it as well in one of the sessions on how Teams can actually bring that collaboration to the next level. But also professional development. We have a session today specifically around professional development and how to tackle that, but keep Teams in mind that could be really your driver on how to increase your professional development, make it more efficient, and really drive it to that next level. Student building community, right? Where students are already engaged, not just with teaching and learning, but also among themselves. And maybe that's more of a topic where we start seeing in high school all the way to college and the university, but that's really something where we see a lot of benefits. There's actually a social study that was done that when students feel that they belong in a community, whether that's in high school, whether that's in higher education, their chances for success are a lot higher. So that's also something that we want to focus on is how can we use Microsoft Teams to really drive those additional options specifically for students in that area. And then of course for research is an amazing platform for higher education. It's super essential, but we want to do it secure. We want to do it efficient. And again, that's something that Microsoft Teams can help you with. And to start with, we're really going to listen to Dr. Timothy Pons from the University of Texas at Arlington. And they have been using Teams within their education, within higher education, and really with the goal to Microsoft Teams is making a huge splash in commercial as well. How do we bring those career-ready skills that we see both in education and now in commercial as a part of their training, as a part of their education?
We have a huge population of students, not only in our region, but we also serve students that are online. And our students are all juggling a lot. So we want to be sure that the resources that we have really are focused on our students.
I'm a lecturer in the Department of English here at the University of Texas, Arlington. My students tend to push away from the provided platforms that we offer for communication. Students don't want to use email.
It's a little bit intimidating because, you have to follow the standards. We're used to social media and just a quick instant messaging.
Before, I used other options like Remind text messaging service, Blackboard chat, or Canvas chat. I was seeing them struggling. And so what I began to think about was, how can I offer them a way to communicate with me in something that feels familiar, but is also in alignment with all university communication policies for students? And that's when I found out about Teams.
As a student, it's very useful for having everything in one area. It's very easy to just message a professor and they usually respond quickly. It's got assignments on there. I can share my screen.
One of the most powerful tools within teaching Teams is collaborative authorship. I'm able to open the same documents that they're opening and offer feedback while they're actually authoring the document.
Helps your assignment flow better. They are helping you along the way, just like if you would go to their office hours.
I am a student worker on campus, and that function is very useful for having team meetings with coworkers on the other side of the campus. I can just click a button and, hey, video chat real quick and show them what I'm looking at.
In an aggregate, it really helps our students juggle all of the things that they're trying to do and finish in a reasonable amount of time.
Using Microsoft Teams, it's made education accessible for a large, diverse audience of students, which is really something we have to think about as we're moving our students into the job market and we're looking at being good citizens of not only local, but also a global community.
So that was specifically for a higher education, so University of Texas at Arlington. In this case, we also want to make sure that we give you an example of one of our K-12 school districts, and this is one from Dr. Diana Green, who is a superintendent in the Duval County Public Schools. And she's going to give you a little bit insights on how they brought Teams in their environment and some best practices that she feels that is really helping them to achieve a lot more using Teams.
To say Microsoft Teams was a great benefit would be an understatement. Microsoft Teams, along with our district leadership and our schools, came together, and we were probably one of the most successful school districts in implementing home learning.
So specifically around Duval public schools, really what they tried to do is make sure that everybody had access and that everybody knew also how to use Teams. And what is super essential is, yes, Teams is an amazing platform that you can immediately tap into, but there's a lot of discovery that needs to happen, right? Is where you help your teachers, where you help your classes, where you help your students really achieve a lot of the information specifically that they're going to need during their classes. And that's something that I know Robin, who is one of our speakers today, is going to focus on as well, is all around that professional development. How do you make sure that your people are successful? Don't just experience that or expect that when you throw them in that everything is going to be super crystal clear. We talked in the beginning about those skill set. That also implies for your teachers, making sure that they know what to do, how to do it, that the configuration is set up correctly. So something to keep in mind. When we talk about Teams, and you're going to hear that statement a lot, we call it the hub for teamwork, the hub for collaboration. And we also want to say this is the hub for education right now. And if you're a little bit familiar with Teams, you're absolutely going to recognize these three icons, right? Whether that's about calling, whether about chatting, whether about the Teams itself, whether that's your classrooms, whether that's your collaboration spaces. That's what's basic. That's your core functionality of Teams. But Teams is so much more. Teams is a part of Microsoft or Office 365, depending on who you talk to. And so pretty much what you see here is you can bring in all the Microsoft applications that you have in Office 365, whether that's Word Online, PowerPoint, SharePoint, Forms, Yammer, Stream, Planner. All these applications are available to you. They're a part of Office 365, and you can seamlessly integrate them with Teams. But it doesn't stop there. We really spend a lot of time working with our education partners to do the same thing, to bring in their applications into Teams as well. Think about Nearpod, think about Wakelet, think about Moodle. Those are all education partners that we have a really good relationship with, who understood that Teams is going to be that hub for education where everything is pulled in. And what they've done is they actually made their application available directly into Teams. So if you go into Teams in the App Store, you're going to recognize a lot of these applications. And some are going to be completely for free, and some will indeed require a subscription with them, but it is an extension of what you have. So if you're already using Moodle, if you're already using Quizlet, if you're already using Nearpod, you can just bring that in and really make Teams that centralized environment where everything happens. And of course, Microsoft also invested in creating very specific education focused application and features. Think about the OneNote for Classroom. I know a lot of you are using it probably right now outside of Teams. So what we've done is we just brought that into Teams so you don't have to leave Teams to actually have access to that notebook. Think about assignments. There's a full session specifically around how to use assignments into Teams, and that is something that you're going to be using quite a lot when you use Teams in your classroom as well. And then of course, Flipgrid, one of our latest additions into the Teams ecosystem, but you can just bring in Flipgrid into your environment. And again, making Teams that hub for everything education related. We actually used Flipgrid to create a number of scenarios. So if you're thinking about, I want to start using Teams, don't really know how to get started. My coworker Dominic Williamson did an amazing job in creating a number of scenarios with our customers. So they're all customers who are presenting their use case specifically in a video format on Flipgrid. And so we have two libraries available for you. We have the K-12 library, and we have the Teams and the higher education library. So depending on where you are, or if you want to watch both, that's valid as well. Just go to flipgrid.com/Teams K-12 or Teams EDU, and you will have access to the full catalog and kind of get ideas, right? Listen how other people have done it and how they're using Teams in their classroom. Okay, one additional customer reference that we do want to make sure that you have is the Fulton County Schools.
My name is Mindy Ramon, and I work in the Fulton County Schools in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm going to share with you how I use Microsoft Teams with our Vanguard team. So our Vanguard team is a group of over 300 teachers across the district, and Teams has become our primary mode of daily communication and collaboration. So we use the team to share information and updates. Vanguard members ask questions and get help. We conduct monthly PD sessions via the video meetings, and then we also share files and documents on our team. So this is an example of our conversation area, and you can see a couple of the posts our members have made and that they've gotten replies back from other members on our team. We also have used the conversations area for the leaders of the Vanguard team to post and share information that we want to provide to all of our members. We also have created a special channel on our team for shout outs in an effort to help build community and develop relationships across our very large team. We have a channel also on our team called Monthly Webinars. So every month on a Tuesday night, we hold a webinar as a way to provide professional development to our teams, and there's a different topic every month. You can actually see here in October, we had 2 different webinars that happened. That was a special month. And so the invitation for our members to join the webinar is there in the channel. And then we record each of the webinars. And so you can see in the tabs area, we have a tab that links to a channel that has been set up on Microsoft Stream where members can access all of our recordings. We also make use of the OneNote notebook that's connected to the team. And in here, we have created sections where we are housing information that our members need to access when they attend our face-to-face events. And then we have also set up a additional tab that links to Flipgrid. So you can see here we've created a grid on Flipgrid called the Vantage channel, and throughout the year we have posted different topics for our Vanguard members to respond to. So about me, I am the coordinator of instructional technology training for Fulton County Schools, which is the 4th largest school system in Georgia. Feel free to reach out and connect with me on Twitter, or if you are interested in learning more, feel free to send me an email.
So this is really where Fulton County is using Teams as their primary learning community tool. And so what is very interesting here, and I hope you picked up on that as well, is of course they're using Teams with posts and files, but one of the things they've done is they brought in a stream channel with all the recordings of the webinar. So people did not have to look where all these recordings stored. And additionally, they also brought in a Flipgrid channel because at that point, they really just are using the technology that they were using before all in one centralized environment. So if you walk away with one thing specifically about this session is don't look just at Teams as the features that we as Microsoft make available, but also take a look at all the applications that you have available at your fingertips to really extend the usage of Microsoft Teams. Just a short overview of the information that recently has, or the new features that recently has been released. So in public preview, we have now 7x7 together mode. I hope you saw that we now have raised hands as well. Live captions for people who need it. Translations are available on the mobile app. So if you're using an iPhone or an Android phone, you can actually install the mobile app and have that available as well. If you are using SCORM or you have SCORM packages that you want to bring into Teams in combination with one of our amazing education partners, Go1, we did create an application where you can just import the SCORM packages and make them available directly into Teams. Meetings right now do support over 300 attendees, or 300 attendees. That's the total that we support. And also, we have a lot more things coming out. One of the things, for example, that you want to look at is using our Microsoft Education blog. So use your favorite search engine, search for Microsoft Education blog, and you're going to see that recently for Back to School, we've announced over 25 new features that you will be able to use, both from an end user perspective, but also from an admin perspective. So every single month, we're pushing out a lot of new features. And I know sometimes it can be overwhelming for you to understand and to keep track of all the things that are out there. But the education blog is your friend. Every single month, we put a blog post out there with the features that have been released, or also the features that have been announced that are coming. So that is a really good way to keep track of things. Right. We also have our bookings app. If you're not using bookings, yesterday, we did a full session about bookings. Make sure to take a look at that recording as well, because bookings is absolutely something you want to take a look at. Advancements in the class analytics or the class insights analytics is something that is very interesting. Is right now what you can do is increase your classroom experience with insights. So if you're already using your classroom setup, make sure to add the app Insights. It's going to show you really your digital engagement of your students, how often they are in the meeting, which documents they're working on. If you're using assignments, what is their on-time submission? What is the time for feedback? All that information is available and is for free available in Insights. The only thing you need to do is add the application to your classroom experience. Things that are coming soon, breakout rooms. I know everybody, and I've seen it already in the Q&A as well. Everybody is asking for it, but it is coming soon. The student lobby, hard audio mute, so a forced mute. We are continuously adding stuff focused on student well-being. We have a number of options right now with our lobby options where only the teacher can bypass the lobby and the students have to stay into the lobby. I just mentioned class insights, something that you can do. We're improving our whiteboard functionality and so much more. Again, make sure that you check out our education blog and have that available. One final slide here is, yes, Teams does teaching and learning, but does so much more. So whenever you have time, think about the next scenarios that you can start bringing into Teams, like from a professional development, like faculty staff collaboration, and so much more. All right. I see that I'm already 2 minutes over. That is going to, that is because I'm so super excited to show you everything that we have to share today. But without any ado, I think whoever is next on our agenda, the floor is all yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to run through surveys and quizzes with Microsoft Forms and then set you some tasks like we did yesterday towards the end to have a look at how you can use those within Teams at the moment. The first thing for us in terms of Microsoft Forms and quizzes is that it allows users of any group to gather quick polls, quizzes and surveys for your organization or externally or anonymously even. So you can do things in a number of different ways. The data is collected in the cloud service and you can export it to Excel. So it's important you can get access to your data, and if you can get it into Excel, you can obviously start then to use it in some of our data analyzing platforms like Power BI, for example. You can extend your data into SharePoint, into a SharePoint list, and start to use Flow, or as many of you will now know, we've changed that name to Power Automate for notification and list integration. You can use web parts for data entry and results, and also then start to think about how you can use bot integration with Microsoft Teams. And here on the right hand side, the Teams Virtual Roadshow is a very simple form that I set up with one question that we'll come back to later on when we're talking about how we can do that. So the first thing is Microsoft Forms. Where do we find it? So if you're not quite sure where to find it in the first instance, you would go to your app launcher in the top left hand side where it says Office 365 here at the top of my screen, and I would locate Microsoft Forms. We put the purple box around it so that then you can see where that is. If that does not appear on your landing screen because maybe you've not used it very much or it's not quite there yet, you can click on the All Apps button, which I've put there on my screen, or up there we can see Office 365 and All Apps next to Tips and Tricks, so that then you can get there to have a look and find forms and start to open forms. As we open forms, we'll get greeted by a box, a sort of welcome box that allows me to create a new form. And as soon as I click on that create a new form, it will show me a screen that will have a number of different options on it. The first part that I always get drawn to is it will say to me, do you want to create a new form by clicking on the top box, or do you want to create a new quiz? And both are slightly different, and we'll go through some of those differences very shortly. And you'll notice that it's actually landed on the My Forms tab initially. So these are the forms that are personal to me, that I own, that I've created. I can share with other people by all means, but they're the ones that I've put together initially. If I look to the right of that, I have the Shared with Me tab that I can click on. And if I click onto that, I will find those forms that colleagues have shared with me, so that then I can either edit them or I can duplicate them in different ways and make use of them so that I can use their particular piece of work. And as we're all for trying to help staff reduce the amount of workload, I think that's really important. We sometimes have group forms, and those forms are forms that are created either in a team or from a group scenario. And group forms are owned by multiple people, so they show up under that group form area, and they allow me to be able to work on that form with everyone else. Many people say to me, when I have used forms for a while, I might have 100 forms or 200 forms. It makes it a little bit difficult to find the form that I'm looking for initially. And so I have to think about how I can organize that. And as we talk about things like possibly naming conventions with Microsoft Teams, there's no reason why you can't use a naming convention for your forms. So if you're creating a form that is for a particular class that you know you're going to reuse every year, you might want to duplicate it. If you were to give it a bit of a naming convention at the start, it allows you then to search for the form title or own a name if you need to then try and find it. So it's a very easy way to start searching for that. So for example, I might have a business form that I want to use, and I might use BUS for biz, and I might use 1 for business 1. I know it's in week 1. I might do a business 2, a business 3, etc. So it allows me then to start organizing those forms and using them as I work through the creation of using a form or a quiz. So if we were to go and look at a form in particular, when I first click on that create a new form, it asks me and will ask me to start thinking about a title. So in this instance, I've created Teams Virtual Roadshow. And notice when I put in that title, it also gives me the option, if I want to put an image behind there so that I can use it in a way that I would like to add an image to it to make it much easier for people to understand what we're doing. That can be a color block or it can be a photo, depending on how you want to use it. It will then give me the option to write a description. And if I want to write a description, it'll give everybody a bit of an understanding about what the form is. You might put a privacy notice up there at the start so that people know exactly what's going to happen with their data if they want to. The first step after that, though, is starting to create my form. And easily by clicking on the plus button or add new, I get the option of some question choices. So first one is a choice question, which is multiple choice. The second one is a text question. The third one could be rating, and the fourth one is a date. I do have a drop down box after that, which will actually reveal a number of different types of questions I can also add in. So I might have a ranking question where people have got to organize it in a way that suits them. There might be a like at question, or there can now be a file upload question. And that's really good if you want to put a questionnaire out, but you want to collect something back in that they may have completed or add to for you to be able to use. Important that that is available if you are using forms internally. If you use it externally, that's not there at the moment to upload a file. And then last but not least, under there is the ability to break out into different sections. Sometimes you may want different sections within your form to collect information. So it might be personal data first, and then it might be other parts that you're working on. And a section can be useful, particularly if you're thinking about things like branching, where you can branch on the questions that you've got. Sticking with just the questions area where I've started to create a question there, I can obviously flick over really easily to responses. And if you're in attendance yesterday, you would have seen when Dominic put the form out, he quickly flicked to the responses area and you saw those responses firing in real time. So I can see real time data on the responses of the question that I've got. So I created, first of all, a choice question. And you can see it on the right hand side of my screen here at the moment. I said, what do you want to know about? Collect feedback, manage requests, or check understanding. Where that sits at the moment, the people who are filling that in would be able to click one of those options when they're answering it. As I created the question, I can add another option or add an other, as it's put there in the speech marks option. I can change it to allow multiple answers. So it might be they need to select 2 or 3 different things from there, and that is fine as well. Last but not least, in thinking about our question style, I can make it a required question. And that's useful when you know you need to have particular bits of data. So it gives you the opportunity to validate that data in collecting exactly the same from everybody. I can look at the 3 dots, the 3 ellipses, similar to what we were talking about in Teams yesterday, next to that question. And I can start then to understand that if I am sharing this with students, I can put shuffle options on. So quite often when we were teaching before, we would be saying, okay, I've given all the students exactly the same form or quiz. How do I know they're not all just copying off each other? If we put the shuffle options on, it will mix those questions up and allow them to answer them in different ways at different times in the different types of questions. I can make my choice a drop down. I can add a subtitle, and then lastly there on that particular part, I can add branching. And that's where we start to get the power of, if they were to answer manage request in this one, it might take me off to a different area of the form that I've written in a different way if I know people want to manage requests. If they wanted to collect feedback, I might take them off to different other questions that would be all about how they can do that. So we've got the ability to be able to move the questions in a way that fits some of the answers that people are giving. So we talked in that first instance about me writing that question. So I did. And what I then went up to the top of the screen and clicked on was preview. And as soon as I clicked on preview, it shows me what my form is going to look like for people filling it in. First of all, on a computer layout, and then also on a mobile layout, which is the second screen that I've brought in there. And I want to just highlight here that when I've taken this screenshot, we see the immersive reader option on here. So immersive reader is available on the computer layout, and it's also available on the mobile layout. So you can have those people that need to have things read to them, or it's easier for them to work with having things read out loud. They can do that. So it gives us that option to allow accessibility to everybody that wants to have it. So I can know that I can have that read all the way through my form. And then it gives me, as it's one question, a simple submit button. So after answering that one question, I would be able to submit, and then I would start to see my responses coming through. So this third screenshot here is showing those results. I don't have any in this one because it was one we made just for this example here, but it does show responses, average time to complete, and whether my current form is active or not. I am able to open this in Excel, and that's really important to get some of the data out. There are also 3 ellipses there that allow you to go in and look at the information and even delete some records if you want to. So it makes it easier for you to manage your form right from within Microsoft Forms. As I go then with my form and I'm starting to think about what I want to do with it next, I may have written my form. And having written it, I've got to then start to think about, do I want to apply a theme to that? I can do so. Do I want to share it? And if I want to share it, how do I want to share it and what do I want to collect? So currently in this particular drop down, only people in my organization can respond to my form. And as I have that selected, I can copy a link that will give out a link for people to be able to get access to it. I can turn it into a QR code. I can embed the form, or I can send the form out via an email, and I get the option to send those out. And from this same area, I also get the opportunity to share as a template. So I might want to get a duplicate link that I can send to my colleagues so that they can use this form and manipulate it and change it in a way that works for them. Or I can share to collaborate for them and get a link to view and edit so they can use that. And when we start to then think about a bit further on there, so I'm sharing this as only my organization can respond. I might want to actually say anyone with this link can respond. So I get some options when I think about my settings of my form about how they can use that. And I think that's something that's very powerful. You can record names, only one response per person, so you get unique views, or you can allow people to fill it in multiple ways. I like the options for responses. I can choose whether it can accept responses or not. I can have a start date, an end date, to shuffle questions, and also customize the thank you message. So if I were to click that, it would allow me to write in a message that is customizable, and they can get information about that. I can send email receipts to respondents, and I can also get email notifications of each response. Now, sometimes you wouldn't want to click that one depending on how many responses you're expecting. The other great add-in to using forms is that we have the ability also to make it have multiple languages. So the primary language in this instance is English United States, but I can select from a number of different languages as I look down there. So I can add in Welsh, for example. I can add in German. I can add in English United Kingdom as well as English United States. And there's a whole list of different languages that you can add in there to make your form accessible to a number of different people in different ways. So something that's really powerful for you to be able to do. Microsoft Forms can also then be embedded straight into Microsoft Teams. And we spoke yesterday when we were in Teams about how you add a tab. So if you think about the Teams layout, right next to the posts and files area, you will have a plus button that allows you to start to add in tabs. And if you click on that, you will open up a box very similar to the one that we have here. And you will see that Forms is there for you to be able to click on and add in. If you go to add in a form, you will get the box that I have now next to me, which might be create a shared form that you and your team can edit and see the results. So you can create directly from in there. But if you're wanting to add a form for people to fill in particular, or show some results, you might choose to add your existing form. Here you can see that I've got my Teams Virtual Roadshow form. It's personal to me. And I'm going to add it in when we do it to collect responses only. So that means that people are able to fill it in. You also have the option to show results. So you may have a project team where you actually want to see the results of the information that you're collecting, and you would put the show results for that one in particular. And then as I click the save button in the Microsoft Teams, it will then allow me to show my form in my team. We mentioned quizzes, so I've done a quick walkthrough on some quizzes for you and shown you just one or two of the differences in here. You set it up in exactly the same way, but you would click on quiz, you would give your quiz a title, and as you add in more questions, the number of points that you have on offer will go up in the way that you would like it to, depending on how many points you think a question is worth. So in this one, I've created a question and I've selected the math drop down. So I've added in a formula, and then it has suggested actually what are the correct answers for me, and I've added in a number of different answers, and you can see that there is a tick next to that correct answer. When I next went on to the plus button to add in a question, because it's seen that I've added in a maths question, it's actually given me some question ideas. So it's saying, would you like to add in the 3 questions that are here? And if I want to do that, I would click add all, and then it will already then create me a quiz with extra questions in it. Each of those questions would initially be worth 10 points because it would be the same as my first one, but I could change how much they were worth if I wanted to. And again, that is really easy for me to be able to alter and to work with if I'm starting a quiz. Under the settings, it is very, very similar, apart from you have options for quiz. And under that, you can show results automatically. That means the responders will see their results and correct answers immediately after submitting the quiz. So it gives them information straight away, and it will help them find out how many points they've already scored, etc., if you are running it directly from creating a quiz in the forms area that we've shown. So now we have 2 activities, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes to first of all create a survey and add the collect responses option to Teams. So that is some of the information that I've just been through. To give you a bit of a hint, you've got to click on that new form button when you're in Forms there. And the second one is create a quiz with 3 questions and then add that to your team as well. So I'm going to get you to create 2 different things. We're going to put the timer on like we did yesterday, which will give you a 5-minute countdown. And then once we get to 0, I will run through how we can do that. I will be using the pre-created survey just for speed of time, so that then I can show you how we add it in as a tab there. And then I will also have my quiz that I can add in, so you can see that in the team as well. Okay, so I'm going to start the timer and let you get going. Okay, everyone, our timer's reached 0 there, so I'm just going to bring up a window and jump over to Microsoft Teams. And there you can see a team called S114 Science in this particular instance, and I'm going to go initially back to Microsoft Office Home, and I'm going to go and click on Forms. I'm opening Forms here. You can see that I have a Teams Virtual Roadshow form, which has the blue background, and I have a Teams Virtual Roadshow quiz, which has a green background, which was the ones that I created earlier on. Just to show you that they're there, I can click into here and I can click to add a new question and just put, did you complete the task? Okay, so really simple, can pop that in there. I can have a long answer or a short answer on this particular one, and I can see that I have the 3 dots there where I can put in a subtitle. I can actually add restrictions, so if I wanted to, I could restrict this to being a particular type of answer. So I can have it as a number greater than, less than, equal to, which allows me to get some regulation behind my data, so I'm able to start using that in a way that I want to. So if I've created that and I want to then add it into Microsoft Teams, I've gone into week 4, flight dynamics in this instance. I'm going to go up to the top here, I'm going to click on the plus button, and I'm then going to choose forms to add this in to my team. I'm going to choose add an existing form, and I'm going to choose my roadshow form that I've filled in. I'm making sure I'm collecting responses as opposed to showing results. So here I go, I'm going to collect the responses, I'm going to press save, and my form now appears full screen in my team, and the people who are here would then be able to go and fill this form in. I mentioned about immersive reader, so I'm just hovering over that now, and if I were to click on that, which I'll do just very quickly, it will take you into immersive reader. Don't want to spend too long, but it gives you an idea of then what can happen and how that can be read out loud to people so they can use it. Likewise, if I wanted to add in my quiz, I can do it exactly the same way. I go back to my tab, I go back to forms, and I now go to add an existing form, and I have my quiz listed here, virtual roadshow, and I can press save, and it's going to go away, and it's going to bring in my quiz for me, so that then we could look at that, and I could then answer my quiz, knowing that the first answer was right, because that's what I saw when I created it. I could then do that and press submit. And if I submit that, I can then see what my own results are like, and I got it right. So I got 10 points out of 10 for that particular one. Okay, and I can go back to the thank you page, so I can see all of those parts. If I were to answer my original quiz here, manage request and submit, because I haven't said I've got to fill in number 2, it will show me that that information has now been filled in. If I were to want to view that, I can now see my responses here for my form, and I can see there's one response. I can see that it took 5 seconds, it's active, and this is what the people have responded. So it's looking at how it's pulling that data together for me, and I can see that manage request is the one response, so it's 100%. So that was how to use forms and quizzes, a run through, and to bring them into Microsoft Teams so that others in your organization are then able to use that and start to collect data in a way that you want to. A really powerful tool, and something that is forever obviously being added to as well, which is fantastic. And with that, we're just 2 minutes over time, so apologies, Dominic. I'm going to hand over to Dominic for the next session.
Thank you very much. And your clever use of that video timer was popular yet again. It was probably one of the very popular. And for everyone that was wondering, it is actually a little video embedded within PowerPoint. And a quick one, actually, Alan, while you're sharing your screen, do you mind going back to that form and then adding in an image or a video just to show people where they can do that from? Because that was a popular other question. Sure. So maybe just for the title of the form or a question, okay. A text box that you added. Actually, yeah, a text box would be great. And then just show how you can add a picture or a video.
So we have a text box question here, so a text question, and notice you've got then the image button next to that. And by clicking on that, it will allow me to insert media, either an image or a video. And it's then allowing me to put in a URL. So if I have a URL, it can come from Microsoft Stream, which I know we'll be talking about later on, or it can come from YouTube, for example. As long as you have a URL for that particular file, then you can add it into there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That was another good question that came up a few times. And it looks like we've already got 12 thumbs up on your countdown clock, 13. So it was proving to be very popular yet again.
Brilliant. Welcome, everybody. I'm here to talk today about SharePoint Spaces, which is our exploration into bringing 3D into your classroom as part of SharePoint. And the first thing that I want to kind of clear up on this front is the name SharePoint, the name Teams. Those two things are already working together for you. So anytime we're talking about Teams, a lot of that is built on SharePoint. So the place where your files are actually living is SharePoint. But from your perspective, you can kind of think of that as this is all Teams, and you already have access to all of it. There's tons of kind of specific functionality that's built into SharePoint for building pages and ways to communicate from kind of one to many or in small groups. I'm not going to cover all of that today because I'm going to focus on this kind of forward-looking new functionality for building mixed reality environments. But there's a ton that you can learn and a ton that you can use. And anytime you hear about SharePoint, know that that is kind of a key component of Teams that you already have access to. So moving into SharePoint Spaces specifically, again, this is our exploration of what it means to take three-dimensional environments and bring them into the world or the world of SharePoint specifically. So SharePoint has always had a concept of pages. Again, that's how you kind of assemble what is the equivalent of a web page that's viewable by everybody in your organization. And we were thinking, hey, what does it mean for us to extend that canvas from a 2D layout to a three-dimensional layout? So you have a little bit more creative flexibility as to how you can use that canvas. By doing so, we also bring in different content types that have not been available previously. So the world is rapidly adopting three-dimensional models that represent physical objects and doing more and more design and prototyping and things of that nature with 3D printing and all that fun that starts by creating a digital representation of an object. So now we can bring those into this environment. In addition to that, SharePoint Spaces makes extensive use of 360-degree imagery, which will be the core component that I'm actually going to show you today, mainly because that's something that I think pretty much everybody has the tools to go out and capture some of that and create their own new content on their own. So if you have pretty much any smartphone at this point, you have options via various apps or built into the camera application to capture 360-degree imagery and start to use that as part of your storytelling process. An important aspect of this, you may hear the word mixed reality, virtual reality, and kind of think, oh, I have to have a headset for that. I have to dismiss that because I don't have headsets. An important aspect and a key focus that we are working on at this point is to build a great browser or Teams-based experience. So you can experience these three-dimensional spaces on a traditional two-dimensional screen. And the same thing that you build for that two-dimensional environment and two-dimensional viewing process that you can scale to all of your students today also works if you actually have access to headsets and gives you a more immersive experience. So you can build content today and use it entirely in Teams and in the browser. And then if and when your school adopts or has access to headsets, everything that you have built scales immediately into those headsets. Browser and Teams-based today for kind of scale and the opportunity to do this with everyone. And eventually, or if you have a small number of headsets, a great immersive experience that can be achieved by using that today. Importantly, all of SharePoint Spaces is kind of built on SharePoint, but integrated with Teams. So what I will show you today is actually the view if you create a Teams tab within a channel that shows you a SharePoint space. You have to do the editing within the SharePoint interface, but the viewing and the kind of access that you would give a student is all integrated within the Teams. No code is necessary, so you're kind of using a what you see is what you get editor to lay out a 3D environment, and you can create and share these mixed reality scenes in minutes. So if you are at all familiar with SharePoint and the publishing process, it's a push button process. So provisioning and all of the things that would normally be necessary to kind of create and publish a website. We make that a super simple process where you are kind of assembling the content and just pushing a button to send it out to the right people. Importantly, there's no additional cost. Your institution already has access to this. If you're using Teams, again, you're using SharePoint, and all of the components of SharePoint come along with that. SharePoint Spaces is actually in a public preview now, so everybody has access to it, but things may change a little bit as we move forward, but it will not change in terms of the fact that you will continue to have access to it with your existing licensing structure and all of that. So without further ado, let's actually go and see what it's like to experience a SharePoint space. So I'm going to do something that hopefully will feel very authentic because it's near and dear to my heart, and also hopefully kind of will translate reasonably well into a more educational context. So this is going to be a conversation where I'm going to teach you a little bit about avalanche awareness. I'm a backcountry skier myself, so all these images are things that I've actually taken myself and assembled as part of this tour. But it can be thought of as the concept of a virtual field trip. So if you have various environments or historical areas that are either local to you or you happen to know somebody or want to collaborate with other educators around the globe to go and kind of assemble some of the content for 360-degree images, you can then share and experience those environments together within these SharePoint spaces. So what you see here is a SharePoint space embedded within Teams. You can see your channels kind of over here off to the left, the core SharePoint space here. and your normal Teams environment. I'm going to hide a decent bit of that by going into the full screen view, so you get as much of the SharePoint space view as possible as we go through this. And what you'll see here is the core SharePoint space, which gives you an environment that again is laid out in 3D, and you can kind of explore by rotating around the space and see various different things that I have included as part of it. So we will start over to the left here with some imagery that gives a little bit of background on the very basics of avalanches and snow science. So first off, we'll start with the two different types of avalanches that you are likely to encounter in the backcountry. A slab avalanche, you can see kind of has what's referred to as a crown here. And this entire block of snow has kind of pulled away from the slope and come down the mountain all at once. This is actually generally considered the more dangerous of the two types of avalanches because you have the potential to end up buried under that snow, which is not a good day. The other option that we have is a loose snow avalanche. Most of these are actually what's referred to as loose wet avalanches, indicating that it's occurred as the snow starts to melt and liquefy in the sun a little bit. And you can see kind of little fans of snow that have moved down the mountain. Generally speaking, these can also be dangerous, but they are less likely to produce burials and more likely to produce scenarios where they'll push a skier over a cliff or something of that nature and create risk in other ways. The other aspect that's super important is the avalanche triangle, which is kind of the three main components that have to come together in order to produce an avalanche. So the snowpack was super interesting to me, having grown up in the southeast of the United States, where snow appears for a day or two and then disappears immediately. Out here in the Pacific Northwest, snow in the mountains just piles up again and again, and you have multiple different layers and an entire bit of snow science that defines snow metamorphosis and how those layers interact and change over time. The weather is both kind of the current weather and how that weather has impacted that snowpack. And finally, terrain, which is really the thing that we can manage while we're in the backcountry, that allows us to choose where it may be safe or more risky to go. And that all kind of surrounds the human factor and the decision-making processes that we have to go into that account for snowpack, weather, and terrain. Moving on from there, over here we have a little bit of information about tools that we use in the backcountry in order to plan routes and understand where we are likely to be able to go with and without avalanches. The first is an understanding of terrain from a slope angle perspective and where avalanches are most likely to occur. So slopes that are less than 30 degrees, we're pretty unlikely to see an avalanche. It's just not steep enough for the snow to move down the hill. Between 30 and 45 degrees is where we see most human-triggered avalanches, because that's where we have that opportunity for snow to kind of pile up and not naturally move down the hill and naturally trigger as avalanches. And greater than 45 degrees, you see fewer slab avalanches for exactly that reason. You will see naturally triggering avalanches that are usually loose, either wet or dry avalanches, and you have less of that ability to have snow accumulate and create slabs that break away all at once. And in planning, we often use topographic maps that in this instance are shaded with those various slope angles. So you can see the same color scheme here. Most of the red slopes are kind of in that 30 to 45 degree range. And you can see the red lines here indicate some potential ski routes that we can experience. This one over here that I've labeled as North Beach, you can see is mostly unshaded, which means it's lower slope angle and unlikely to produce avalanches. Good day. As you can see, kind of goes through a few regions where we have the potential to produce avalanches. But on a good day, it's definitely skiable and a lot of fun. But one of the things that's most challenging for people as they are learning to use these tools and to explore the backcountry is how to translate between what you see on this topographic map and what that actually looks like in the real world. So there's where the newest functionality that we have in SharePoint Spaces, and something that's really core to these 360-degree images comes in, is I can take you into the mountains on a virtual tour that allows us to understand what it looks like to experience those various locations. So this is a virtual tour of the Tatoosh mountain range in the Pacific Northwest. If I spin around a little bit, you may or may not recognize Mount Rainier over here. So this is just across Paradise Valley from Mount Rainier, and you can see that we're on that North Beach slope that I described was not super steep, so we're unlikely to experience avalanches here. And within this, we can use our 360-degree tour annotations to bring some two-dimensional imagery into this scene. That allows me to communicate kind of the topographic map that shows me exactly where I am. And as you can see, we're in that unshaded spot. And we can also look down here and we can see the castle is this rock formation. And you can start to translate between what that rock formation looks like on the map to what that rock formation looks like in real life. And we can label that with our annotations. And in addition to the annotations, we also can link up multiple 360-degree images. That allows us to feel as if we are moving through the mountains here. This next one should load momentarily. So we're now up on that upper ridge where the link was located in the previous image. You can see Little Tahoma is this nice little small peak next to Mount Rainier. Paradise is there across the valley. That's where most people drive up to, and is probably one of the most popular places to visit in Mount Rainier National Park. And again, another view of the Castle Rock Formation, and one more link that can take us up to just under the top here, and we can see another view of Mount Rainier, and a good example of how we can combine sort of 2D imagery where we can get some nice high image quality pictures with 360-degree imagery. That's great to understand and see kind of what and where things are happening. And then, as you can see with the 360-degree imagery, you have the opportunity to spin all around, and you can explore the geography around the Pacific Northwest and see that over here is Mount Adams, and we also have West Unicorn Peak and Unicorn Peak, and many different things that the 360-degree image allows you to kind of understand where you are as part of the process. And what I have done here is I've sort of created 3 separate virtual tours that represent different places within the Tatoosh mountain range. So this is a tour of this North Bowl that is visible on the topo map that I have converted into a 3D model here. You can inspect that model and kind of rotate it around and see what that looks like, how steep these things actually are in reality. Again, all of this stuff you could experience in a headset if you wanted to, but everybody can access this browser-based view quite easily and quite effectively. All right, I am going to transition now over to the process of editing a virtual tour. I just want to introduce this. So this is not intended to show you everything that's involved in that process. The intent is to show you that this is relatively easy. So I've come to the SharePoint interface. I've opened a slightly different version of this tour that is missing one of the tours. So in the SharePoint UI, there's the edit button that if you are a full site member that has edit rights, you will see and have access to. And then I can add what's referred to as a web part with this little plus button over here. In this case, I'm going to add the 360-degree tour, place that into my scene, navigate through the site to find the 360-degree images that I want to include in the tour, select those 4 images, and add them to the tour. you can see that that then adds this globe into my space. I don't want to use the podium because I kind of want to display this right adjacent to this map. I can move that around with my mouse to some extent, and then refine that by using the transform bar here at the bottom to get it positioned exactly where I want it, as well as make it a little bit smaller so it fits in with the other components that are around it. And then I can open this tour builder, which is how I go in and set the starting view that I want people to see when they first open this tour, how I set which of these 4 images are the images that I want to start in. I have followed a best practice here and named my images starting with a number 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the order that I want them to show up. That just makes it so that this drop down is in a logical order, and this tour tray down here that shows you the images that are available is also in the order that I want it to be. And I can add annotations, whether that's text, image, video, audio, or files being PDFs, Office documents, things of that nature. So it's a simple process to kind of combine these things together and also link from one image to another. So I'm linking up to that second image now and selecting that. And now I would be able to move into that next image that is image number 2 here. So that's the basic process of editing a tour. The important takeaway from there is hopefully that that's a relatively easy process that anybody can do. And I would encourage everybody to kind of explore this 360-degree tour web part, explore options for capturing some of these 360-degree imagery using various phone applications, or if you have relatively or some resources for investment here. There are cameras that are dedicated to this that start in the couple $100 range, can range up to $1,000 or higher than that for some professional level cameras. But all of these images were taken either with a cell phone or with a $250 to $300 camera. So hopefully it's relatively accessible and easy to accomplish this as part of people's processes. And finally, once we exit that tour, I do also want to show you that you can add 3D models to this space. And importantly, you don't necessarily have to go and make your own 3D models all the time. So we do have a 3D catalog that gives you lots and lots of different options. If you are familiar with 3D objects in Microsoft Office, you may have seen this before. Most of those 3D objects are also available here. And I've heard some awesome ideas from some educators in the UK and elsewhere around using this for student reports, potentially bringing characters from books to life by assembling a space that kind of represents the things that would be important to those characters. Obviously, you can also use text and 2D imagery and things of that nature to combine all of that into a single thing. You can search here. I can look for a space or something that will be relevant to this space and add this mountain here just to decorate my space a little bit, and it shows up right there. Again, I can kind of move it around with my mouse or using the transform bar that shows up at the bottom here and customize that. There is also a stock imagery option. So if you add the image web part, you will have stock images that become available. So importantly, you can get started in SharePoint Spaces without creating a massive amount of your own content. So I encourage you to explore. Also, definitely encourage you to reach out to me via Twitter. If you have any questions at all, suggestions, ideas, use cases, want to share awesome things that you create, I'm always looking to hear about those. And we are absolutely investing further in making SharePoint Spaces a great experience for educators and others across the world. So thanks a lot.
So this session I'll be covering is on-demand learning with video. And for those who are then saying, well, hang on a second, Alan just said I can embed Microsoft Stream into a form. That's exactly what we'll be covering, is now how Microsoft Stream as the video platform as part of Office 365 can work. So what this means is, I'll head across. For those who maybe haven't used Microsoft Stream before, as the name suggests, it is part of the Office 365 suite, and it is one of the Microsoft apps available. A great thing about it, it's free for education, supports up to 500,000 videos, and each video can be up to 50 gigabytes per video in size. So very, very big and can be very long if you need them to be. Do keep in mind, of course, very long videos, it's more about than just keeping people focused on it, but you can absolutely put in some very large and very long videos should you require it. Now, one of the things about Microsoft Stream is it also works very closely with Microsoft Teams. So this is where you will see then whenever you say have a Microsoft Teams meeting, as part of that meeting itself, this is where it then also goes across and gives you the ability to say, make a recording of a meeting. This is really great. And you saw a lovely example from SGS on how they were using that to do things like lesson recording, for example. And the other one that you have is also the option where Microsoft Stream is very useful in its ability to also make more inclusive learning experiences. And so what I mean by that is you'll see when we go through it together today, it can actually generate closed captions and a transcript that students can then have their captions be automatically generated. And yes, you can always make changes if you need to the caption file. But what's a wonderful thing that I found to be incredibly useful both in my day-to-day life, and I certainly wish I had it back when I was at university, was the ability to be able to search the transcript. And what that means is if we think about then the opportunity for a student to be able to also focus and jump exactly to the points in time where keywords are mentioned. And I'll show you that in just a few moments. Now, for Microsoft Stream, one of the things that we really want to focus on is giving you the ability to try this hands-on. And so I appreciate maybe you might not have a video handy to be able to then upload to Stream. So this is, I've got you covered, fear not. If you go to the link aka.ms/teams today, and remember that's at the top of your list in the featured section of our live event today, where it says access slides from today, or you can just type in that URL into your web browser, aka.ms/Teams Today TL, as in teaching and learning, for our teaching and learning event. What I've actually done for everyone joining us is I've shared a video made by a colleague of mine, Jim Federico. You might have even seen him at some of the other Microsoft education events. Anyway, he's made a great short video that's only 3 megabytes in size. And I'm actually going to encourage you right now to download Jim's very quick demonstration of doing an overview of the different parts of a cell. And what this will allow you to do is then we're going to upload that together and we'll all have a video that we can then embed within Teams. Of course, if you have an existing video, you are welcome to use your existing video. But we have hundreds of people joining us live today, and I appreciate maybe a few people might need a quick starter video. So remember, click on that link from the provided in the featured section of our event, or you can just type that in. And for those that are saying, Dominic, how do I do that? Well, don't worry, I have you covered. So this is where I'll jump across. So that link, aka.ms/Teams Today TL. When I click on it, through the power of OneDrive, here is a folder that will now give you access to the materials from today. You'll know we have day 1 and day 2. We are in day 2 together. So make sure you click on day 2 and see here, we have now the ability to go through and the video from Jim. And so a simple one is you can just click on the video itself. You'll notice if you click on it, it starts playing. So you'll want to pause that video. And look in the top left-hand side is the download button. When I click on download, that's now going to start the download for that very small video. It should take you only a minute to download. It's less than 4 megabytes. And we're going to come back to that one a little bit later on. So make sure you do download that video so you can then do some of the activities after this. Or of course, if you have an existing video, you are very welcome to use that instead. So as I mentioned, SGS are using Microsoft Stream. Many colleges, schools, and universities are using it, of course, to record Teams meetings and also to make rich learning experiences available on demand. And so you saw that example from earlier today, how you'll see they had a tab within Microsoft Teams. They'd taken the Microsoft Stream app, similar to how you saw Alan take the Microsoft Forms app. The Stream app allows us to embed stream videos. Now, these stream videos then mean I can go through and I can either have a single video that is pinned for my students or a channel of videos that is available for my students, which is really what you're seeing on the right-hand side there. So this is a really useful thing. It allows students to review their content on demand. It helps with revision, means I can go back as a student and I can review that concept of how do I construct an introduction, for example, to my assignment, or I can go back and see really as many times as I need to hear that explanation as part of the video recording itself. Now, one of the things that you'll see is when you do select one of the supported languages, so specifically English for our example today, then Stream will automatically generate captions. And those captions, once generated, using then again the power of Microsoft investment into artificial intelligence, we can then index that and make those captions searchable. So this is really useful, particularly as a student, if I need to go back and let's think about searching for a word like feedback. And it'll show here the word feedback, the time when positive feedback as a phrase was said. It actually will show me exactly when in that video it was said, and I can jump to that moment in time. So you can see there 3 minutes and 56 seconds. And I certainly remember back on my experience when I was studying, you know, we had like a 2-hour lecture and it was recorded. And then on microeconomics, the terms that I needed were all throughout the 2 hours. And so overall, I was trying to find exactly when was microeconomics said because I was trying to revise and improve my recollection of it. But it meant I kind of had to just jump through that recording. This saves students a tremendous amount of time. And it's even a great one for you if you're recording, say, a staff meeting where you just want to jump to a moment in time where maybe, say, your project or your name was said if there was maybe an action assigned to you that you need to jump to. Very helpful to be able to go through and search a recording as well, both for revision and productivity purposes. So just like Microsoft Forms, Microsoft Stream is available to you from the office.com, and it's one of the apps that you have as part of the Office suite. So if I quickly open up my web browser and I head on back, you'll see that I have now, again, click on all apps if you don't already see Microsoft Stream, and then click on Microsoft Stream from office.com. Now, if you do not see Stream as one of the options, you will need to speak to your IT administrator because they have disabled it for you. So please have a conversation with your IT department if you do not see Stream, but it is absolutely available to you and it's part of the free Office 365 for education. So give that one a click, and that's really where we need to go for today's hands-on experiences. So we'll come back to that one a little bit later on. Alrighty. Now, Stream has some very nice capabilities. Did you know? You can actually record anything on your desktop without needing to install any video editing software. So you can make a video recording of a desktop app like Photoshop, of a website, of a PowerPoint, and you can then, just using the web app from Microsoft Stream, make recordings of up to 15 minutes with no additional installed applications required. Really nice, and it's one I've used quite a few times. It's a great one if you just want to explain a concept to someone in a few minutes and then send that across to them, which is very helpful in today's focus of doing things on demand and remote. The way that we access this is just from Microsoft Stream. You'll notice now that Microsoft Stream we have here open. When I click on the nicely named and straightforward create, because we want to create something, look at that, we have now record screen. And so that means I can then make a recording, not just of my web browser, but really anything on my desktop. And then because that's in stream, I can then share that out with my class or with my colleagues. Very helpful and does not require you to have to download any other video editing software. Just like that, you can get started. Now you might say to me, but Dominic, actually, I really want to record a longer lesson, or I really want to go through my PowerPoint. How do I approach that? So this is where, oh, and I already had jumped ahead here. So this is where I'll just go back 2 seconds. And then one quick thing to be aware of is the record your screen. Make sure you do select your correct microphone and video camera so people can hear your lovely explanation. Now, as I was saying, what about if we want to make a longer recording of more than 15 minutes? This is where we have then the option within PowerPoint, because again, did you know that PowerPoint allows you to record your screen? So not just your PowerPoint slides, literally anything on your desktop. So when you just go through, you'll notice if you search from the Media tab, so there's the nice little search box in PowerPoint if you're having trouble finding it, and just search the word record, you've got the ability to both record slides or record anything on the desktop. And so when you click there, screen recording, this gives me the ability to record effectively as long as I need. Now, because of course, when we start to make long recordings, this is where then we have the opportunity to use the installed PowerPoint app. And one of the wonderful things about the desktop PowerPoint app is, again, just like Office 365 always loves to work together, you'll notice we have then published to Microsoft Stream. So when you go to the file and click export, again, you can easily publish this straight to Microsoft Stream. And a great thing about PowerPoint is, again, it has a few tools in there to make it easy to say edit and trim recordings. So these are available to you either if you want to make a really quick and easy recording, so just click on Stream, Record Desktop, or if you want to make a longer recording, this is where PowerPoint has some really useful built-in capabilities available to you, because remember, PowerPoint is available at no cost then, and depending, of course, if you are a full-time educator, you have the desktop apps available to you also. Now, with regards to then getting ready to create then an experience for students or of course for colleagues, but we're going to be focusing again on our class experience. You will have had as the preparations for today's event to create a class team. And so this was something that you should have already created a class team. And what we're going to do now is add a channel in Microsoft Stream that will be used for our class itself. So what I'm going to do, and this is an activity that we're going to do together. So no timer right now, just follow along, but please do this with me, is I'm going to ask you to open up Microsoft Stream. We're going to click on Create, and we're going to create a channel. From the channel, we're going to then upload that video that we just downloaded a few minutes ago. So you should have definitely been able to finish your download by now because it was just a very small file. And you'll see then we're going to upload that video to the channel that we create. And in our example, we're doing a science class, but again, you might have a different class. That's okay. The focus here is just how we can bring the video directly into the class itself. So let me do that with you together now. All right, so heading back over, one thing to keep in mind, as I mentioned, you will have a class, or at least this is something that you should have, is a class that has been either created for today's event or an existing class that you have. In my example, my class is my S114 science class. So we're going to be talking about science concepts, and I want to have a few videos available on demand for my students. From Microsoft Stream, that's where I'm going to click on Create Channel. And we're going to call this for me, you can call this whatever you choose to. I'm just going to stay in theme with my science class, S114 course videos, because these are the videos for my students in the course. We can give it a description. And notice here where it says channel access, group channel, company-wide. If you did want to make this available to every single person at your institution, you can click company-wide, but I really only want this to be available to my group of students. So this is where I'm going to select my group of students, which is my class, S114. And you'll notice that I simply type in the name of my class. So type in the name right now of your class. So type in whatever the class team name is that you have created. And in my example, I've created the science class. So just make sure you type in your class name as it appears within Microsoft Teams, and it'll appear here. And then there we go. I've now said that the S114 science class is part of this, and we could also upload an image if we want. In the interest of time, I'll just skip that step. Go ahead and click create. Lovely. So here we go, S114 course videos. What this means is it's now very easy for me to go ahead and go through and click on and then embed videos. Now you'll notice we can then drag files anywhere, which I was just going to open up File Explorer, or we can select more files. So it's your choice now. You can either click and drag the video that you've just downloaded, or I'm just going to click select more files and then use File Explorer to download and add in my cells example video. So select the video, either again, the one that you just downloaded earlier, or a video that you might have existing if you'd like to upload it. And we're going to call this one Cells Overview, because again, it's your choice what you name the video, but right now you'll see it's a quick overview of how a cell is constructed. Again, we can give this a description. Make sure you select the language that is in the video, because this is how we're going to get our closed captions to be generated. And if we scroll on down, we can then also do some other settings. So there we go. We can then pick a thumbnail, for example, for our video. So I might take this one, or you can pick that. See where it says permissions. Now, this is a bit of an important one to be aware of. If you don't want students to have any opportunity to edit the video, make sure that you just deselect owner, because right now we only want it to be displayed to students. We don't want them to own the video. This is an important thing, though, if you did, say, work in a multimedia subject where you do want students to also contribute and edit videos with you. That's where it would be a good one to leave that selected. But for most times, you'll probably just want to display the video to your students. And then last but not least, you'll see we now have options, auto-generate caption file, and then make sure that one is selected, which by default it will be if you selected the language of English. Lovely. Now we can go through and then click publish. So what does that do? Well, now that has created the video and it is available as part of the channel. So if I go down and I can look at my content, and under my content, I can click on channels. What you should now see is the channel that you've created. You'll notice I have one video, and when I click on this, there it is, my cells overview. You can see myself here. I've logged in as Ken, so we can see that I'm the owner of the video. And if I want to click on that video itself, that video then loads up. And look at that, through the power of Azure and the cloud, we already have our captions which have been generated, which is rather nice. And so this is where we can then see real-time captions, and we can even search the captions. So if we search for So you'll see there, if I search for the word cytoplasm, it appears at the 4-second mark, and I can even click on it to go straight to that moment in time where Jim says cytoplasm. And notice even the accuracy of the words that it has picked up as part of the way he's saying this. Of course, you can always, if it ever does make an error that you need to fix, and keep in mind, accuracy also depends on the quality of your recording. So if there's a lot of background noise, or if it's not very clear, that can also change the accuracy. You can always edit the transcript and improve that over time. Lovely. Well, in that case, let's head on through. And one other thing that I wanted to take you through is editing the video permissions if you need to now afterwards. So again, the way that we edit our video permissions is very straightforward. You'll see here right now, we're looking at the video. If we want, I can click on the 3-dot ellipsis and I can click update video details. Or to make it even easier, I can always just click on my content videos, and you'll see all of the videos that I have. And then again, clicking on that pencil icon, the pencil makes it really easy for me to be able to edit any details. So if you do need to change the name, the description, or again, if you do want to use this video across multiple courses, This is where you would go through and then you can change the permission so the people, channels, or groups of who can access and view this video. So it's a really lovely way to be able to then save yourself a lot of time and reuse content across different channels or groups, but make sure you do edit the permissions correctly so that group of people can actually view it. So this is one of the nice things about Office 365 is security is a core part of every app that we have. So this is how we can now manage our permissions of who can watch and view which videos. Now, this is one of my favorite things. Now, it is a new capability that has just recently rolled out, and that is the ability for you to be able to add interactivity within a video. So you might notice that beside transcript, if you look over on the top right-hand side video, we have then the option to beside it to add interactivity, and you can add in a Microsoft form. And for those you will have who just attended Alan's session, so a few minutes earlier, you will have created a form or you could create a new one. And now we can actually embed those forms as part of the video itself. So this is something that I find is also a really useful one to be able to go through and then be able to experience then not just watching a video, but interacting with that video itself. So in this regard, what I'm going to do here is you can see that if I go through, I can then from editing, I can click on the video itself and add interactivity, which is very useful, and we'll do that together in the activity. You have also then the important part of bringing it all together. So just like before where you could add in other apps to Microsoft Teams, by adding in the Stream app, this gives you access to be able to view the video directly within Stream, making a single hub for students or colleagues to be able to access that content. So it's very nice and straightforward to do. All we need to do is open up and search for the Stream tab, I should say the Stream app, when you add a new tab. And you'll notice then when we can then add in our channel, just search for the channel name that you've created, and then we can then bring that channel directly into Microsoft Teams. So this is where I'm going to give you a chance to actually try these two things. So just like before, we're going to have a 5-minute timer, and then I will go hands-on and I will take you through setting this up as well. So as part of the 5 minutes, you'll see you've got 2 activities. 1, add some interactivity to your video, and then 2, add the video to your class team using the Stream app. So we'll give you 5 minutes for activity 1 and activity 2, and then I'll take you through it with me. All right, so that takes us to the 5-minute timer. What I'll do is I will take you through an example of how we can then do activity 1 and also activity 2. So this is where what we'll do is the interactivity part. So remember, you'll need a Microsoft form for that. Now, a Microsoft form, you could have created a brand new one or reused the existing form that you had. So this is where we'll have, for example, an example of a quiz that I've just been putting together here. So I'm going to call this my week 1 video word quiz. It's a pretty simple one, but again, it's up to you the way you want to structure it. So what I've got done is I've created a quiz. I've said which word has a meaning similar to nucleus, because of course that's something that's discussed in the video. And then I've selected the correct answer, and let's give this 1 point and make this required to be completed. Now we have our form ready to go. So let's head back over to the adding interactivity to the video itself. So from my channel, this is of course where we can see all of the videos in the channel. So you should now have the cells overview. And again, you could have given it a different name. It's totally your choice. So let's have a quick pause. And what we'll be able to do is go through the video and at a time of my choosing. So I'm going to put it at 11 seconds. I want to add interactivity. So directly beside transcript, we have interactivity. And for here, I can then say where it says form name, form URL. So of course, we need to go grab the URL for our form. So when I head back on over to the form, I click on share. And then if you want students' names to be recorded, make sure it says only people in my organization can respond. And then click on the nice big copy button. head back, and then click on paste. So now what I've done is I've pasted that here, and I'm going to call this week 1 word quiz. And what this does is now I've given it a name, I've given it the URL for the form, and you'll notice because I've navigated to the 11 seconds on the video, it says position on timeline is 11 seconds. And then I click add to timeline. And now just like that, we have then our form embedded within the video itself. If I wanted to add another question or another form, I could simply click on add form and add it at a different point in the video itself. So what this means is I've now got the ability to go through, and you'll notice how it's paused the video and then it will load in the form itself. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, this is now doing sign on back to Microsoft Forms and then back within then the Forms itself, looking at my identity in Office 365. So there it is, Word video quiz. So let's have a quick look at how we then do task 2, which is the option to then bring that video and channel directly into the team using Stream. All right, so to do that, remember we've created our S114 course videos channel. So I'm going to head back over to my class and I'm going to click on my class team. And then from my class team, this is where I'm going to click on from the general channel. But again, you could put this in whatever channel that you want. I'm going to click on the plus sign to add a new tab. I'm going to search for Stream. And there we go. We can then start to bring in Microsoft Stream. Now, notice you can then add an entire channel of videos or an individual video that you have. So you can do either or. And so remember the channel name. And again, go make sure you type in the channel name that you have created. For me, it's S114 course. Press enter. And when you've clicked enter, notice how it'll search. And there we go. Channel S114 course videos. And I can see here that it's aligned to my group, and I'm just going to click on that. And there it is available. So now what I can do is quite simply click on save. And voila, we now have the video embedded. And remember, any videos that you add to this channel will all appear here. And so you can then have multiple videos available for your students. Or remember, if you only wanted one video to appear here, instead of pinning a channel, I could have pinned the individual video itself. So what does this then look like from, say, a student's perspective? So I will open this and bring this one up. So right now, here is a different view. I'm Douglas. Douglas is a student. Douglas can come in as the student. I can see here that Ken has posted the course videos, or of course, I can click on the course videos tab. And what this allows me to do is then see these videos available as part of my class team. And so we can see the overview of the cell. I can then see the nucleus. I can then see aspects of the video itself. And now what this is doing is you'll notice that it says, the nuclear envelope. You'll see things about. And so what that's doing is I've got the captions that I was just sharing before. But in addition to that, it just hit at 11 seconds, the form itself. So what that's now done is there's my week 1 video word quiz. Hi, Douglas. And again, remember, this is using single sign-on and Office 365 working securely together. So it makes sure the student didn't have to type in their credentials, which is why it takes a second or two to load up. And then which course has a meaning similar to nucleus. And so this is where I can go back, and core has a similar meaning. Submit. And what that will do is that now sends that quiz data back to you as the educator. And then what you'll have access to are the results from the student. Now, of course, I can then just click continue video, or I can even view the results to check my understanding. Awesome, 1 out of 1. And I can then click continue to video. And then my video continues to play. Something to keep in mind, once a student has seen the form once, the video will automatically move past it in the future, making it easier to review. So notice how it didn't pause a second time because I had already done the quiz once. So this is something to keep in mind, is if a student does skip the form, they will need to come back, and then they can always open the form again. On the bottom right-hand side, it says open week 1 word quiz, and they can always open that form at a later stage as well. Now you might be saying, well, Dominic, what does that then look like from the educator's perspective? Well, remember, I'm now back here as Ken, the educator, and I can then head back over to my Microsoft Forms, and there we are, one response. And we can now see the response that we've had come through. And then we can also review, and we can see Douglas was the student, and they got auto-graded 1 mark that I gave them for this. So that's really where we can start to bring Microsoft Teams together with Forms, with Stream, to create a really rich experience from a student's perspective where they only need to stay within one place. So one of the big things that we covered yesterday for day 1 of our event, which was really this idea of Microsoft Teams being able to then complement your learning management system, or VLE, as it's also known as. And so this is where we have seen, although many colleges, universities, and schools are also saying, well, we are seeing that we want to just use the capabilities that are available within Teams. So one thing to call out, it is your choice whether you use Teams assignments. You can, if you ever need to, disable Teams assignments if you have an existing VLE. But what we have invested in very heavily, and it's been a lot of engineers working very hard for the last few years, is to continue to create a really rich and comprehensive assignments experience that is continuing to improve as every month and year passes. And so this is where we've seen Teams assignments today is being used in colleges. You saw SGS earlier today, how they were using assignments. To give a different example, Staffordshire University, and again, this is a public case study that you'll be able to click on the link, which is part of the slides you have available to you after this event today. What this will give you access to is then seeing, for example, how Steve Bateman, one of the senior lecturers, is using Microsoft Teams assignments at Staffordshire University to provide real-time feedback to students. What we have, in addition to not just the feedback cycle, but we've also made sure that we can then integrate with plagiarism checking tools. So some of the well-known and top tools like Urkund and Turnitin are available within Microsoft Teams for plagiarism checking, and I'll show you that in a few minutes' time. We're also thinking about how do we develop that student holistically, giving them access to a grade book where they can view their grades across a single subject, in addition to you being able to view a student's progress over time. And one of the ones that I thought was, again, from Staffordshire University, this was a great article that had been, I should say, a journal that had been published by Martin from part of the law faculty there. And so this is, he published the following paper, Teaching with Teams, an Introduction to Teaching an Undergraduate Law Module using Microsoft Teams. And this is a great, again, you'll have that link as part of the slides. So that'll be from the slides that we share as following the event today. But this is, again, if you'd like to read Martin's experience and that has been published. In addition to, there are many other examples that we've seen both earlier today and as part of the Teams scenario library. So this is really where, just to share a few examples, what is Microsoft Teams assignments? Well, as the name suggests, it gives you the ability to create and distribute assignments to your students to help create interactive virtual lessons. One of the things that we've also invested in is to continuing to provide a rich, robust set of capabilities. So you'll have seen things come out like the ability to schedule assignments in advance, the ability to do things like rubric grading. And in addition to that, also making it easy and fast to mark assignments and easy for students to submit assignments across devices. One of the things I remember, a great example when I was at the roadshow when we were in person last year, is an educator after the event told me how one of her students, she actually had a 2-hour commute to go on campus. Back, of course, when we were doing in-person classes. And that student, because she had her phone, was then able to then work on her assignments from the phone and even submit the assignments from her phone. And of course, you can submit from the laptop or web browser. But really, that's one of the big things we've invested in, is making sure that you can then interact with your assignments, whether you're on an iPad, a Samsung Galaxy, or of course, on a Windows or other laptop as well. And one of the things to be aware of is that assignments today, currently has a limit of 200 students. So what this means is if you are teaching really large classes, to think about it kind of like your lecture theatre tutorial situation where you would have a single large team for all students in the cohort and then a separate smaller class group or tutorial team, I should say, for the students where you can then assign them the assignments if you are starting to have particularly large numbers of students. But for less than 200, we can then distribute the assignments in one go to all students in that team itself. So in that regard, this is where I will take you through an overview of creating an assignment, and then we'll go hands-on later for a few activities. But let me show you what it looks like, keeping in the theme with our science team and our science class that we've been running. I'm going to set my students an assignment around the principles of flight. And something that's always captures everyone's imagination the first time they see a plane take off, tons of steel and metal that doesn't look like it should be able to lift off from the ground. Through engineering and impressive science, we've been able to figure out the fundamentals of how we can then create such lift for something to be able to leave the Earth's surface. And so this is where, let me show you what it looks like to create the assignment itself. Now, from the class team that you have, you will have an assignments tab. Now, this assignments tab gives me the ability to go through and then be able to share create an assignment for my students. Now, you'll notice that we have a few sections. I can see drafts that I'm currently working on. I can see the option for also my assignments that have been assigned currently, and also the assignments which have been graded for my students. And where I'm going to focus to begin is from the create option. Now, when I create an assignment, it's fairly straightforward and very friendly to be able to get started. A lot of the things that you would expect to see are really here. So for example, we can then add a title for our assignment. We can add a category, and that category, what that will do is the category itself makes it easier for you to organize your assignments. So as you can see here, within our science class, we have then a series of different topics. And so if I had maybe a few assignments which were related to, say, the principles of flight, this is why I could add a category to that, and it just makes it easier to also organize. I can go through, give a description to my students of what it is they need to do. And one of the most important parts here is I can then also go through and then add the resources that my students will be working on. Now, you'll notice we have then a series of options to pick from. So I can then upload files from OneDrive. I can then access things from the class notebook. I can add a link, or I can then add a new file itself to my class team. So something here to be aware of, this is where we can then also, for those who are teaching within, say, the K-12 space, we also have integrations with MakeCode. So this is quite a nice one if you want to be able to help with introductory programming concepts for your students. And then we also have the ability to access information from other teams that you, of course, are a teacher of. Last but not least, I can then upload from this device if I haven't already uploaded or added my files to OneDrive. You should be storing files in OneDrive, but at the same time here, I appreciate this is where I'm going to upload just a few quick files as part of the example today. All right, so you'll notice that I'm uploading my fundamentals of lift and my essay on flight. Now, one of the things to keep aware of right now, I don't want the students to be editing the reference materials, for example, the PowerPoint. But when it does come to the essay on flight, this is where I do want students to edit their own copy, because this is actually an essay template I want them to be able to manage. So again, it's your choice whether or not you want students to be able to edit or not edit the resources that you provide them. Always something to keep in mind, depending on the way you want to deliver this assignment. So I want my students to be editing this Word document, but I don't want them to be editing the PowerPoint, which is the reference for them. Now we can give it a grade. So for example, if you want to have no points added to it, you just want to be giving students feedback, Or here I can then say give a 50-point value, 5-point value, 100 points, it's your choice. And one of the things that's also really useful is the ability to create and add rubrics. Now I can create a brand new rubric. So this gives me the ability to then give more meaningful feedback to my students when it comes to how they're able to go through and respond to the assignment criteria, giving them clear information on the grading criteria that they will have. Now, what actually is very useful is we can also create more consistency and also save time, because you have the ability to then also download and upload rubrics. And what that means is that we can then share rubrics between staff members and then go through. And just like that, I've now uploaded an existing rubric. And you can see that I've got the option now to then have much more detailed information that's provided to my students when it comes to the criteria that I will be marking them against, particularly if we have then different options as part of the assignment that the students will be marked against. Now you'll notice it says assign to, so of course we can assign it to the class by default that we're in. If I wanted to, I can assign this to a subset of students by selecting their names. And one thing that is particularly useful is I can also go through and where it says, for example, here, I've got the option to go through and click on edit. When I click on edit, this is where I can assign to all students in this class in the future. What does that mean? Well, it means I can prepare for my term. I can prepare on, say, the week before classes start, and I can actually go through and then complete and give a set time for students to actually be able to then submit, I should say, for this assignment to go live to my students, which is quite a useful little tool tip there. We can then also see from the perspective of the due date. I can then set the due date when assignments will be available. So this is where I can then also, now this is where I can then schedule this out to be made available. So whether or not I want students to be able to start working early or if I want to schedule to be assigned in the future. So this is where I can make it available. So for example, it won't be released until Friday. So this is where you can combine these two options to then pre-plan your term. So this is where I can schedule in the future and I can also set a close date. So when that you set the close date, it means, for example, the students will not be able to submit the assignment after that date. So think of it kind of like you can allow late submissions. By default right now, students will be able to still submit, and anything after 11:59 p.m. on the 9th will be marked as late. If you want to say, well, look, I'm not accepting any submissions after a following date, this is where I could add a close date and say, well, look, if you haven't got it to me by the 10th, you're not able to turn in your assignment whatsoever. So this is where anything after the 9th will be marked as late, and then anything after the 10th cannot be submitted by students. And then last but not least, I can go through and then here I can click on edit, and I can then go ahead and click on flight dynamics, because what we have is now a really nice new capability that you can actually post the assignment notification, not just in the general channel, but in specific channels of your team. So remember, channels give your team structure, and week 4 is the week that we talk about flight dynamics. So I'm actually going to make this assigned to the week 4. So there we go. I can go ahead and click assign. Now what this will do is this will then send this out to students. And then from a student's perspective, if I just go back to Douglas, students can then see assignments that are available to them to complete. And of course, this one here, Douglas, I had been given him a few assignments earlier, so we can see marked in red the ones that are past their due date. I'll come to the gradebook in a few moments. Keep in mind, the perspective of a student is only they can see their grades and only they can see the view, for example, of the grades that I should say, the assignments that they have been given. They can never see another student's grades. So for example, here, just like within assignments as a student does not have the create button. And so what that means is that the student can go through and they can view the assignments, but they cannot interact with the assignments in the same way that you can as the educator itself. And so that's something to keep in mind. From that perspective, the ability then for a student is different to the educator, and you as the educator have an enhanced set of capabilities that the students do not have the view of. So what does this then mean from the perspective as myself going through and then managing the course? Well, this now means that I have that holistic view of my students themselves, and you'll notice that we just had a notification pop up in Flight Dynamics. What does that mean? Well, it means because again, I am Douglas, the student. I can see here I've now got that assignment that we just set before as the educator. It's due July 9th, and then as a student, I can go through and I can click on View Assignment. This is where the students can go through and they can then see those materials that we had assigned. The student can then see the rubric that they will be graded against. And when they're ready to turn in the content, they can then add their work or edit, for example, where it says My Work. Remember, we gave Douglas and all students a separate, unique copy of the file that they will work on. So when I edit this, only I as Douglas can edit this copy of the essay on flight, and only I as Douglas can then see what I'm changing here. A separate copy is sent to each student. So that's the view as the student. And if I go back as the educator, you'll notice here that because I'm now in the view and the assignment's been sent out, I can also see and click on student view to see what my students see from the assignment's perspective. And I can go back and then of course, I have the educator view, which allows all of my students to see, I can see all of my students if they've turned in their work or not. And what's particularly interesting here is I can now see that Douglas has viewed the assignment. So at least if, for example, he said to me, but I never saw the assignment, I can say, Douglas, I know that you did, because remember, in my other window, I, as Douglas, opened it up and had a look at the assignment itself. So we have then the gradebook, which provides a summary then of the overview of the student. And we also have, I should say, one of the capabilities to give you advanced insights into your class, and that's using the Insights tab with Microsoft Teams. Insights allows you to then also go through, and when you add in insights, it gives you the ability to add that class insights tab, which has the view of digital activity and also performance holistically in your class across assignments. So this is where you'll notice here our digital activity. We have 83% of students have been active recently in the class. It has an exclamation mark. 2 out of 12 have not been active. So we can see Alex actually hasn't engaged with the course materials. By comparison, this is now bringing together not just assignments, but holistically the analytics across your class team. So the files that you put into the file section, so the class materials, the assignments and grade averages that you have when you're using the assignment service within Teams, the ability to also see the amount of on-time submissions, the time it's actually taking you to give feedback to students as part of the assignment workflow itself. And remember, students cannot see this. This is only for you as the educator in your view to be able to go through and then manage the data in a way that gives you actionable insights to support your students and make sure that everyone is able to be engaged in your course and be able to proactively support those who maybe are falling a little bit behind. And we can see here from communication activity, I can then see the number of messages per student that has been submitted. And then also I have the ability per student to click through, and for example, here we can see Ella, a nice view just of Ella. She's been fantastic, she's been engaged, she's doing quite well with her grades, and I can see she's made 8 she's done 8 interactivities, I should say, communication actions in the last few days that have been selected here. So a really nice capability for me to be able to see, and this is all from the Insights app. So the Insights app is made by Microsoft, and it can then be added to class Teams. And last but not least, I can also export to Excel. So if you do need to share this data, for example, with a head of department, or you need to combine the data into other data sets, again, you have that ability to be able to easily export the information. All right, so you've seen now, we've gone through, we've created an assignment. What about plagiarism checking? So this is always a big one. How do we make sure the work that the student has submitted is their own? So this is where we have integrations with 2 different apps, Urkund and Turnitin. So both of these do require, of course, that you do have a license. And in the first example, I'll show you of what Erkund looks like from the teacher's view. So what this is, and I will quickly share my screen audio, is the overview of how we can see here the ability to manage the assignment authentication workflow.
Microsoft Teams and simply navigates to the assignment and uploads the document. Now we're back in the teacher view again. Once a student has handed in their document, it can be sent to Erkund for analysis. To check for similarities, navigate to the team containing the assignments and documents you want to check, and click on the tab Erkund. You will first see a list of the assignments available, and you just need to click on the one you want to manage. In the assignment, mark the documents you want to check for plagiarism and click Send for Control. The documents are now being submitted towards Erkund, and the plagiarism analysis reports will be fetched automatically when they're ready. Teachers using Erkund's integration to Microsoft Teams for the first time will be given an analysis address, i.e. an Erkund teacher account, automatically when they submit a document. For teachers who have used Erkund before, their analysis address will be picked up automatically, without any action or input needed. Once the plagiarism analysis report is ready, it can be found under the same tab as the submission, with the similarity percentage and the link to access the report. I hope this introduction to Erkund's Microsoft Teams integration proved useful for you, and for any further questions, visit our website, or you can easily email support@erkund.com for additional help.
So of course, to be able to use either of these plagiarism tools, you do need to have access to their plagiarism checking as part of your agreement with their service. But once you do have that agreement, this is where you can either integrate Erkund or turn it in.
Empowering every student's authentic voice has never been easier. We're excited to partner with Microsoft and offer our similarity checking for assignments created in Microsoft Teams. Teachers and students can seamlessly use the most comprehensive anti-plagiarism solution with their favorite Microsoft apps, including Word, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, and more. All teachers need to do is simply switch on Turnitin when creating an assignment. Then each student's work will be checked against Turnitin's extensive internet, student paper, and academic journal databases. Educators can review each student's similarity score and report for any potential plagiarism and turn it into a teachable moment. Our similarity score quickly summarizes the percentage of a student's submission that matches with sources in Turnitin's comprehensive database. Take a closer look at any matching content. Compare matching text in a student's work to the original source text from our databases side by side. Refine the report at any time to better suit your needs. You can remove all matches from a specific database or adjust other exclusion options, such as excluding the bibliography or quoted material. Existing Turnitin Feedback Studio customers may notice that things look a bit different. This is our new cloud viewer with a new user interface, but the same comprehensive similarity checking capabilities. For full transparency, students can see whether their assignments will be checked with Turnitin. Students can access formative learning opportunities by reviewing their similarity reports and self-correcting their assignments prior to the final submission. Setting up the Teams and Turnitin integration is simple. The tech admin just needs to copy an API key and URL from our new admin settings page, then paste it into the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. That's it. No need for any student or teacher accounts since all of that is automatically synced through the integration. Your trusted partners for helping all students grow as writers and critical thinkers. Together, all in one easy place.
So there we go. Two great integrations that we have with plagiarism checking platforms, which takes us the time now for you to be able to try out creating your own Teams assignments So we've got two tasks, one to schedule a new assignment, and you can then, of course, set it to be released tomorrow if you would like to try the submit in the future, and then create a quiz. And so take the quiz that you would have used earlier today as one example, and use that as a Microsoft form to create a quiz. So we've got the two different types of assignments and 5 minutes for you to give that a try. All right, so with the last 10 seconds, this is where I'll now take you through the activities for the assignments. And let me start with the create a quiz. So to create a quiz, what we want to do is, as the name nicely suggests from the create assignment section, we go over to create a quiz, and you might say, what's the difference between the assignment and the quiz? Well, the quiz allows us to use the quizzes from Microsoft Forms, and the assignments are great then we want more open responses, so things like an essay that we had like before with our flight example that we did. So to create a quiz, you'll notice that I can go through. I could create a new form, but I would always recommend go and create your form first so you can make sure it all looks correct, and then come in here and we'll notice we have now our S114 math revision. So because we want to still say it's pretty complicated maths to get a plane to take off, here's a little bit of the revision that we will need. And I'll click on next. What this will do is, this is the existing form that I have. You'll notice it's already picked up the number of points that I had set as available. I can then also go through and then I can pick the channel that I want it to be visible to my students in. So like before, I'm going to go ahead and pick the flight dynamics channel. And the assignment will be posted immediately with late turn-ins allowed. And remember, if we wanted to change that, this is where I can come in and I could schedule this to the future. So there we go. That's also task 1 now complete if we had checked the schedule to assign in the future. And we can also give a close date. Just like that, I can then go ahead and then give additional instructions if I want and assign this out to my students. The way that this will work is what it means now. My students will receive a notification in a few moments that they have the Maths S114 revision task due. Now you'll notice if I go over to the students view, this is where I can then click on the form to have a look at what it looks like. And just like that, because this is using Microsoft Forms, it's detected that hi Ken. So all of that Office 365 working together. What does this look like from the students view? Well, this is where I can go ahead. I can see here as the student, remember Douglas from before, I can now see my math revision quiz by clicking on view assignment. This is where I can go ahead and go to the assignment itself. I should say the quiz itself. And now I have my series of questions. So we'll do them really quickly. So I will get a few incorrect. Actually, where we go? I'll do that one there. That, and then what is that one? Cool. And let's just intentionally, I'm going to make a few right ones and a few wrong ones. And then I can then go ahead and says, thanks. Thank you for your response was submitted. And I went so quickly, I forgot exactly which ones were the right ones that I was going to intentionally do, but never mind. So a good learning opportunity for me here. So in that regard there, I can now close, and this now has automatically been turned in. We have the date. And what it means now is, as a student, I cannot go back and make changes to this. And as the educator, I can go ahead, and what I will see is, from my student's perspective, this is where I can now see one of my students has already turned it in, which was Douglas just a few seconds ago. And we'll notice here that Douglas, if I go and click on him, I can then also return his grades, or alternatively give him some feedback if I so choose. So there's a lot of fantastic capabilities that the Teams assignments provides. And remember, all of this is available with support and documentation from support.microsoft.com, and also as part of our Microsoft Education Center, which takes me to a perfect moment for our topic on professional development to help you learn more about how all of these tools you have seen today can be used in terms of getting professional development for you and professional recognition.
we are going to be wrapping up our day here shortly, but we wanted to make sure that we leave you with lots of resources. After today's experience, you might have been excited for some things, still have questions on some things that you heard about yesterday or today. So we're going to leave you with some resources of where you can learn more, how you can connect with others, etc. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right in here so that you have access to all these resources. You know where you can go learn more and how you can reach out to us for further connections. So I'll first start off by saying that we've got resources for all different types of audiences. So we've got IT pro resources, we've got resources for school leaders, we've got resources for educators, and we even have resources for parents and students as well. So don't think that, you know, if you're not an IT person, that Microsoft doesn't have resources for you. So for IT Pro resources, we do have a Teams University resources. We've got Microsoft's Teams admin training, so understanding how to organize it on the back end and make sure that your staff and students all have access and your environment is set up in a safe and secure way. And then we also have Microsoft Learn. So MicrosoftLearn.com is our standard that provides instruction on everything around Microsoft technologies out there. Jumping quickly over to adoption guides. So for a lot of school districts, we hear the question of how do we get started as a district using Microsoft Team, or how do we get started as a university using Microsoft Team? So we do have adoption guides that are pre-made that we have built based on customer experience and feedback on how you can best begin to adopt, deploy, and experiment using Teams and ensure that everybody is happy with their access, etc. using Teams. So please leverage the adoption guide for all of that information. We also have some click-through demos. So these are online interactive demos specifically designed on using Teams. So you can click through a demo on how Teams can work in your classroom. So this will replicate an experience of what it's like. And also how to support your students' learning in Microsoft Teams. So both of those tours are self-guided. They're clickable through so that you can experience what it is like without maybe having to create a team yourself and trying to stumble across it. Or I know a lot of times people feel like if I create something on my own and then I mess it up, then people are going to see the mistakes. This will allow you to kind of be able to click through on your own times without worrying about anybody seeing you make mistakes, etc. So that's available for you. We also have the ability for IT administrators to add Microsoft 365 learning pathways inside of your Microsoft 365 environment. So these are basically lots of courses around using Office 365, and they're designed in a way that you can kind of customize this inside of your university or your school district so that you're providing quick learn scenarios and use cases and training for your school district, and all the training lives inside of your school's environment. So you're not having to send somebody out to another site to go learn something, but they can begin learning how to use these tools within your own school or university's environment. This is probably one of the best kept secrets. So there is a help button in Teams. A lot of people forget that that's there, but if you look on the menu bar in Teams on that purple down the bottom, there is a help with a question mark. It is a great way just to inside the tool that you're already in. So if you need help with Teams, click on the help button and you can quickly search videos, quick tips, and they're all education focused. So if you're in an education environment, they're all going to be tailored to an education scenario. So don't hesitate just clicking on that help button, and maybe you can learn while you're in the application itself without having to leave and go for help somewhere. The next thing I'll cover, and I'm going to jump into here in a moment, is the Microsoft Educator Center. This is what I call our euphoria of professional learning for educators and school leaders across the board. So our Microsoft Educator Center is located at education.microsoft.com, and it is filled with hundreds of courses, learning paths, etc., tailored for education. All the content is written by educators for educators. You can go through a course. It's 100% free at your own pace. You can stop the course, come back to it a week later, a month later, it doesn't matter. And when you complete the courses, there are assessments at the end, and then you can earn badges as well. So we all know teachers especially love earning badges and identifying themselves as successful in a course. So all that is available in the Educator Center, as well as the Transform Learning with Teams site. So this is another great resource for you guys. And you will have access to all these links, etc. when we share the resources and the recordings. We often get asked, do you have higher ed specific resources? And yes, we do. In the MAC, we do have some resources specifically designed for universities that are beginning to use Teams, for faculty that is looking to learn how to do that, and then obviously adoption and plans and resources for you as well. In the MAC, so the Microsoft Educator Center, there is also a lot of resources designed for trainers. So if you find yourself in your school district as a trainer, you're responsible for training other educators, school leaders, etc., or faculty members at your university, we do have presenter guides that are already done for you. So you don't have to create your own content before you do a Teams training. You can go to the Microsoft Educator Center, download these presenter guides and slides. There's transcripts available, and you can use those, or you can also customize them to make them unique for your environment. But we don't want you to spend your time reinventing the wheel on training materials when we already have some of those provided for you. And you can kind of get a look at what that looks like. So inside the Educator Center, you come in here and do a search in the resources, and you would see all of the different presenter guides and the different things that are available. In the MAC, there is also learning pathways. So you can choose to not take an individual course, but maybe earn a mastery for a learning pathway. So for example, there is a Fostering a Dynamic Remote Learning Environment learning pathway inside of the MAC. And when you complete all the courses, you earn this badge for recognition that you understand how to teach in a remote learning environment, and you're using student-centered tools to do so. So each of these courses you're able to take, and once you have fulfilled your requirement of courses, then you will earn the learning pathway badge. Now, professional learning would not be complete without learning communities. If you just go to a professional learning experience and you leave and never do anything with it after that, that's not very valuable. You really need a community to help answer questions, ask for support, etc. So we do have our Microsoft Innovative Educator programs. There are 3 levels in the program. Anybody and everybody can become a certified MIE. So you can do that by going to the Microsoft Educator Center, taking some courses in there, earning some badges and points, and earn your certified MIE badge. If you do wear that trainer hat in your district or your school or your university, you can become an MIE trainer as well. All the course content can be done online in the Microsoft Educator Center. You can go through the Trainer Academy learning path and become a trainer. And then we also have our MIE expert community. That is an application-based program that we open applications for once a year. We actually just recently closed our applications about a month ago and just named our cohort of MIE experts for the 2020-2021 school year. But that is something we open up each and every year for educators to apply to be an MIE expert. So we'd love to have you as part of our communities. Now I'm trying to wrap quickly so that you guys, I want to make sure we're honoring your time, but I do want you to see what the MAC looks like, and then I want you to get credit for being with us yesterday and today during this virtual Teams event. So I'm going to quickly drag over here on my screen the live Microsoft Educator Center environment. So you can see the site, education.microsoft.com. And I am in the site. Now you'll see my pictures up here in the upper right-hand corner because I've already logged in. If you have never been to the site, you will want to join and sign up for the site. It's just a few steps to put in some information, and you can create your own account so it can track your progress. You can share your profile with your badges, etc. But that's something that you'll want to do. And then you can see once you're in here, there are courses that are highlighted of new and noteworthy, learning paths, etc. There's a menu at the top that is fast and easy for training, so I can dive in directly to see what courses are available, what learning paths are available, and also what webinars and online events that are happening or coming in the future. There are lesson plans for Hacking STEM, Minecraft, Education Edition, as well as Skype in the Classroom, all available on the Educator Center as well. And then there's information about our programs that we offer, everything from our MIE programs to our Showcase School programs. And then the resources is obviously going to take you into any resources that we have across our different technologies. So you can search for a topic and it will pull up different resources there. Now, like I said, I want to make sure that you all get credit for today's course and yesterday's course. So when you go to the Educator Center and you either sign into your account or sign up for an account, when I click on my picture, you're going to see that I have 3 drop downs. The middle drop down is the button that says Redeem Achievement Code. And so I'm going to ask that all of you guys go to the site and if you already have created an account, log in, and you're going to click on Redeem Achievement Code. This is how you will get your badge for attending yesterday and today's session with us here at this Teams virtual event. Okay, so you're going to click on the Redeem Achievement Code, and now I'm going to give you the code. So going back to my slide deck here, again, here's the code. You'll see this is my profile, Redeem Achievement Code, and then it's going to ask you to enter in a code. You're going to enter in the T-RHDDBC320, and that will give you credit for this Teams virtual event. So we'll provide, like I said, all of this information for you guys in the wrap up, and as well as links for the recordings of yesterday and today's sessions. So don't worry, this code will still be active and viable today, tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now. At any point in time, you can enter it in and get credit for attending this session. So we have lots of resources all available to you for free for professional learning. Please, go discover what you're looking to learn more about. Not all of the courses are specifically about technology tools. I will mention we have lots of pedagogically aligned courses in there as well. So see what you're looking to learn more about, find a course that resonates with you, and we look forward to connecting in our MIE communities with you all soon. So I'll turn it over to Jethro to wrap us up, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Robin. I really want to thank everybody from the attendees to spend like the full 2 days with us, and where we had a lot of really good information yesterday, today was equally as good. I also want to thank, of course, the speakers who spent a lot of time prepping for all these sessions and making this available to you. So a little bit of a wrap up before we let you guys go. Feel free to really fill in the survey, provide us feedback. The more feedback we get, the better we can be on our next event, which will absolutely will do. So we will give you about 2 minutes right now to fill this in, so you don't have to do this later today. So open your browser, go to aka.ms Teams EDU Live-survey, and take about 2 minutes to fill the form in so we can have all that information available. All right. The survey will be available for you guys if you want to do it later or complete it later on as well. Again, thank you so much for providing the feedback so that we can improve these events, making sure that you get the information that you need. Of course, we also have a community that you can join. So if you want to keep in contact with us and with your peers, we have something we call the Microsoft Remote Community. So feel free to join that. This is the join URL. So you can just, again, go into your browser, go to aka.ms join ERL. And again, it will be a part of the slides. So if you don't want to do it now, you can absolutely do it afterwards. But it's a community where you can share experiences, ask questions, and just be a part of that Microsoft Teams community and grow both in skill set and scenario and use cases that you're familiar with. So definitely something with professional development in mind, definitely a good scenario to do. Finally, the slides. If you want to download all the slides, go to our link aka.ms Teams EDU Live -slides. We've noticed that some people did say that the maximum amount was reached. We are going to fix that for you, and we will notify you through your registration email where you can download the next version. But it is something that we're aware of. We're going to make sure that you have access to all these slides. And again, finally, I want to thank you again for spending the 2 days with us, and hopefully it was useful. We want to wish you a lot of success with your back to school motion. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, whether it's through the community, whether it's through our Twitter handle. By all means, if you have questions, just let us know and we'll make sure that we can send some information out to you.